Welcome. The second session or the second part on Preface to Lyrical Ballads by William Wordsworth. And today we will try to cover some basic information about Preface to Lyrical Ballads, ideas of poem as well. Sorry. Class is going on. You have to talk to head side because everything is written here. Okay, the problem is written. What poems are different? Poems are different. How? Why poems are different? Can anyone tell? Why and how poems are different?
Some point write about society.
Now everyone tries to reflect the society, and no one can go beyond his own society.
Just nature.
Sir,
Nature.
we can say that sonnet is different from another poem.
The structure of the poem.
Structure.
It is one of the reasons. Another reason, style already. Because of the style, you know that the
Meter
becomes,
also.
subject.
Subject meter.
Anything else?
Short is imagination.
Imagination.
Long, short.
Long, short. Anything else?
Yes. Epic and.
Why you are not considering the ages?
Yes. Age also.
For example, romantic literature is completely different to new classical or Elizabethan or Victorian, or modern is different than the others. So these are also the reasons. What do you have told? In addition, we should say because of the periods of the poems are also different. Okay? Then what manner in which we associate ideas in a state of excitement? You have already mentioned it in such a way. Imagination. Some things excites me very much, but some things may not excite you. These are the ways. Excite you. Whenever you have seen one example, we can say that is of what? That is Wordsworth when he goes to nature. His feelings, his excitements may not be similar to us or someone else. It is one of the reasons. Someone excites whenever he or she could feel that the existence of ghost, and someone thinks that no, we should highlight only God and goddesses and prince and princess, but some excites with the activities, with their desires of common people, ordinary people, mass people. Okay? Then of what? Then we see low and rustic life. Low and rustic life. What does it mean?
That means
Low and rustic life. What does it mean?
poor people were living the lower quality life.
Only is it? Or something else as well?
They mingle with nature.
They are living in nature.
Yes. Very close to nature.
Very close to nature. Anything else? The common people. We can say they are common people. They are ignored. In a society.
Yes.
What is it? In our country, you see that how many people are exercising or practicing or enjoying the power? Only few people. Not more than 1,000 people.
Yes.
Not more than 2,000 people.
Yes.
Among 16 or 17 crore people. So the other people are ignored. What you are saying here, what you desired is no one listen to you. That's why common people are considered low and rustic. Rustic means obviously the village people.
Yes.
Yet, this is the traditional thinking. Rustic means of what? Traditional. Thanks a lot. But nowadays, the people are thinking that rustic means different. You know the terms central and marginalized. In Bangla we say prantik or kendriyo. Who are central, they are kendriyo, and who are marginalized, they are prantik. I mean support. Who are prantik? Who cannot enjoy themselves, any power, who cannot enjoy the freedom of choice, freedom of.
Those who are native.
That's why I mean support. Not not for financial crisis, but for freedom of their freedom in everywhere. Democracy, the liking, disliking, or something in their job, everywhere else. That is what they should be treated as rustic people. In a state, in a country, most of the people are rustic, low in that sense. Okay?
Oppressed people also. They're oppressed.
Oppressed. They are oppressed. They are suppressed. According to Western, they are treated as others. Others. Okay? Next, poems have a purpose. From the definition of poem, we see that there must have a what? There must have some purposes. Without having any purpose, you cannot say that it's a poem. What is a purpose? There are two major purposes poems serve. First of all, to make the readers please, entertain the readers. Another is
A message.
a message, a lesson.
Yes.
It conveys a message, instruction. It's a moral instruction. As you have read Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, you become excited. You become excited. And you enjoy it when you read it because of the supernatural elements. The activities of the ancient mariner. His narrative qualities really attract me, pleases me. But at the end, we receive a lesson. Lesson is that we must show our respect. We must show our love to each and every creation of Almighty God, Almighty Allah. How? When He kills the albatross, He is severely punished. Not only that, His companions also. At the end, whenever He sees some snakes, and these are what? Moving, shifting from one place to another place in the ocean water. And when he notices it, he becomes excited. And he makes a comment in such a way that, wow, how nice creation of God it is. Or these are. In that time, you see that he gets the blessing of Almighty. It means it's a lesson. So, each and every poem must have some purposes. Obviously, in Lyrical Ballad, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, it is one of the poems of Lyrical Ballad. Tinta Neve, Kubla Khan, these are the poems of Lyrical Ballad. As we have read Tinta Neve, we have got some lessons, entertained as well. It means of what? It means that poems have a purpose. And it's served in their poem as well.
Sir, what is lyrical ballad?
In the last class, we discussed it in details. Later on, I will discuss it again. Okay? Feelings more important than action. Feelings more important than action. What is action? It is not. What is your feelings? Because without feelings, without change your life, you may not have what? You may not be excited. You may not understand what is that. something is working, and there is no feelings, there is no change as well. And you cannot you cannot convey the message as well. It means what? They are trying to emphasize what? Emotionally attack you. As we recite Vidrohi, we say that it emotionally attacks and attracts us, excites us. Whenever he says that, Ami Bhagwaner buke eke dei padachin. What does it mean? That it excites us mentally, okay? So action is not. When you are excited, why you are trying to support some party or someone else, some concept, when you are emotionally excited. So it is important rather than action. Action comes second, emotional attachment comes first. Then poetry, the image of man and nature, the image of man and nature. Do you believe it or not?
Yes.
Can anyone give an example or support your logic? How does a poem reflect the image of man and nature? How? Tigers. William Black's tiger or the good moral. What do you have seen there? The good moral, we say that it is a love poem. Here, a young couple, they fall in love each other, and their emotional attachment is reflected, revealed through the poem. It means of what? It means that this is the image of the human being. Human being can never overcome this. And nature, your surroundings, your reactions. What we have seen in where some poems, songs of innocence, songs of experience, or you can say that in Tintern Abbey or Rape of the Lock. I mean, so what? If you avoid human being, man and nature, you cannot write anything else. When you read some science fiction, most of the times we feel bored. Why? Because we see that this is completely irrelevant with our society. This is completely detached from our imagination. It doesn't cover our known environment and known human being. Then we try to avoid those things. Why Humayun Ahmed is so much popular? Because Humayun Ahmed could depict the images of common people, middle class people like me and our own familiar nature. That's why he becomes so much popular. So poetry tries to reflect these things. All the poems you may not feel, enjoy. Why not? Why don't you feel each and every poem enjoy? Whenever you see that doesn't cover you, that doesn't close to your taste, then poetry gives pleasure. Already we have mentioned it is close to purpose, and poetry is universal. What does it mean by universal? Universal means it's not that it will be applicable for all, but most of the cases we have seen that it gives a message. That message conveys. It's a true message. True message. It can vary. It can be changed from country to country, person to person,
Time to
time as well. The love affairs of Aristotle's time may not be the same of
this time.
present time or Shakespeare's time. It depends on the time. Then, definition of a poet. Who is a poet? Can anyone tell? Who is a poet? Who writes a poem? Is he a poet?
Writes
No.
with meter.
He or she must have some phenomenal features. certain features.
Quality also.
As a result, Jivanananda says that সবাই কবি নয় কেউ কেউ কবি means of what? Everyone can write, but everyone cannot be poet. A poet is a man speaking to man. A poet is a man speaking to man. Can anyone explain it?
Speaking to men, that means that he's writing,
Writing
we are
what man
reading
speaks.
also. That means he is speaking not directly but by through the page or his writing. He is speaking.
So he's talking about man.
He is talking about man. He is not talking about himself only.
Yes.
He is talking about his social being, social
Society.
society. Okay, all the why when again we are coming there, why we are reading Wordsworth or why we are reading Shakespeare, Hamlet, for example, Hamlet. If Hamlet's, if your mother gets married someone else, and your father was killed by someone else, what would be your reaction? You will react like Hamlet. You will try to take revenge against the killer, murder, and you will ask your mother why she has get married second time without waiting, without trying to wait for what? Finding the criminal. In Macbeth, when Macbeth comes to the battlefield and he knows that, what he knows, he is going to be the next king, Thane of Cornwall. If you are frequently known that you will be the business cadre, how? If you go to the man and you can give him some money and he will manage everything else. At least your mind will try to or support you to do that. It means everyone has some features, some common nature. I mean, he is a poet who can read each and everyone's mind. As we see in Preface to Shakespeare, Samuel Johnson mentioned that Shakespeare has created number of characters, but no character is similar to other one. It means he is able to depict the nature or picture of human being. That is the character of what? A poet, major character. Next of what? Knows a lot. Greater knowledge of human nature. If a poet is like us, if his knowledge is like us, will you listen to him? Why we are not listening to our classmates of a particular subject? Because our assumption is that he or she is like me.
Like us.
He or she may not have much knowledge or more knowledge than me. So I should not listen to him. I must go someone else who knows better than me. So a poet, who is a poet? First condition, who is a poet?
Greater knowledge.
Who can speak, who can read the nature, mentality, attitudes or activities of each and every man and his feelings. When it is fulfilled, then you should go. And he must have the better knowledge or greater knowledge than the ordinary human being. A poet is turned into emotions, his own and others, lively sensibility. Obviously, in your mind there is some spark, but you need some fire. Emotionally, it will be sparked. Who does it? Who does it? The poet himself. Example, Cowards by Jashim Uddin, or an elegy written in a country charts here. An elegy written in a country charts here. What's happened? You see, when we read this poem, we become calm and quiet, and we feel mourn for the dead people, dead person. On the other hand, when you read some other poems like Paradise Lost or something else, or to Autumn, or Ode to West Wind, especially Ode to West Wind or Nightingale words, we get some revolutionary power. As a result, you have seen that there is a great creation in Bengali literature, that is Nandolan. Nandolan is the best example. How they try to make you sensible because there is a satire. So is it clear? Third one, can you explain it? How they are emotionally attach you? Julfikar?
Yes.
Is it possible?
Yes.
Obviously. When we read Vidrohi, we see that our what? Bloods become so much hot, and temperamentally we try to. Then a poet has a good memory and can imagine distant things as if they are present. As if they are present. They can create such a things. Just a powerful images. Seems to be that they are alive. They are talking such a way. A number of poems we are reading each and every day based on Liberation War of 1971. All the characters in the poem, we see that this seems to be, they are alive. They are talking to us. They are talking to us. Next. Sorry?
Westminster Bridge,
That one as well. I am standing there. I am observing the beauty scenery of London. Means of what? Emotionally they makes it sensible, and they have this some memory. Memory for what reason? They accumulate. They compile a number of issues, number of things in a single poem. So all those things they must have. And how is it possible? They need of what? A good memory. Otherwise it is not possible. Otherwise the poem will be like that. Dekhle tomar hashi, hoy amar kache such type of poems you write. Okay. Julfikar, have you read in the poem? Such type of poem? We will enjoy. We can enjoy. You can bring it and you can recite it to us. Then and has greater promptness to think and feel without immediate external excitement. What is the basic difference between a poet and a reader? Within a very short time, we become excited. When we see something else, also is it not possible? But a poet should not be excited immediately. Why? Because he pays the deep concentration on it, and he tries to know the background or the reasons behind it. And you will also try to think or evaluate the future effects. But what we are doing? Without thinking future, we are trying to show our reaction. So that is the difference between a poet and a reader regarding this. So a poet should not have a what? Instant excitement. Instant, he must have the excitement, but that should come gradually and under a certain process. Then he can express it. The language of poetry. What should be the language of poetry? What do you think that?
Language of poetry is different.
Different means of what?
Different things.
Chinese language can we write in Bangla?
No, sir.
Not
Then?
different. Not different. It's common language.
If it is
Poetry.
common, if it is common,
we can
often that
understand
means-
easily
Yes, sir.
and we can feel.
Understood easily, and
Can you imagine
We
when
cannot-
we are reading?
we cannot add tribe language also.
Tribal language, or the what should we say, such language which are not used frequently. Actually, it's a selective language, no doubt. It's a selective language. But that language, according to Wordsworth, must be taken from the rustic people, common people. I mean, to which group you are going to highlight, and for whom you are going to present it, you should think. There should have a breeze. Otherwise, no one can listen to it. Why we have read Sharat Chandra's short stories and novels? Because he speaks such a way, seems to be that I am speaking through his created narrators. Humayun as well. But we are not trying to read Bankim because his language is different than the others. Seems to be that these languages are not mine. It's not my language. And when we read Jashim Uddin, we see that these are my language. And elegy written in the Gandhi chair seems to be that he is speaking like us. He is speaking the rhyme of the ancient. It seems to be that he is speaking us. To autumn, whenever to autumn, he covers what? The English season. When we read it, we can easily understand that in our country the similar things are going on or happening each and every year. So what does it mean then? The common language, common people's language must be used, but which is also we can mention that that language should not be used which may be objectionable for the other or awkward for the other. That's why some selective language must be used. There neither is nor can be any essential difference between the language of prose and metrical composition. According to Wordsworth, you have seen, as you have said that poetry means over there should have some meter, rhythm, but Wordsworth says that no, it should not be. There is no difference between of what? Between language of prose and poetry. They are the same, similar language you can use. So it's a question how we can distinguish these two. Already we have mentioned how we can structurally we can, and we can say that a poetry may not reveal everything in detail. Very shortly it reveals its purpose, whereas prose always tries to reveal or explain in details. In novels we have seen that detailed descriptions are given. So is it clear? Next one. The language of poetry which is really used by man. So in poetry you must, according to Wordsworth, the language of poetry which is really used by man. Man means what? Rustic people, low and rustic people, common people. That should be used. Not the selective language, not the sophisticated language which may not be understood by common people. Then it should be coloring with the imagination. And what you have seen, if you write it directly, it is not what?
You mix some
Color. For example, you say that a king loves his wife very much. One day, the queen dies, and within short time, the king is also dead. So, do you think that it can affect your mind? It's not an innocent story.
No.
When it says that the attachment, the soul attachment of king and queen is really good one. They cannot be separated from each other.
We cannot leave.
One day the king feels that he is alone, and later, because of the grief or the absence of the queen, he also drives there. So the language, the uses language is different. Just you can think that way, okay? Then of what? It is a color, actually coloring of the languages. No differences between the language of poetry and prose we have mentioned. Then the principal object then proposed in this poem was to choose incidents and situations from common life and to relate or describe them throughout as far as was possible in a selection of language really used by man. Selection, common language, but that should be selective, should not use all the language without selection. And at the same time to throw over them a certain coloring of imagination whereby ordinary things should be presented to the mind in the unusual aspect. Already we have explained it. What you have seen, if you present it in usual way, very familiar way, no one will read it. Whenever you present something else, unusual way, you must be attracted and you can try to get the meaning of it. One example, ode on a Grecian art. You know that it's art. What does it mean? That it's a broken pieces of what? A jug or something. When he gets it and he presents some artistic way, seems to be that a number of people are truly running. They are going to complete their ritual activities, and a couple seems to be that they are sitting under a tree to offer each other their love, but it is nothing. It's a small pieces. On the other hand, the third stanza of To Autumn, we see he compares the buzzing sound of sheep or hedges cricket to something else, like the music of autumn. He turns it, means of what? These are the familiar, the buzzing sounds. But the presentation is unusual. So a poet does it. A poet does it. And accordingly, such a language arising out of repeated experience and regular feelings is a more permanent and a far more philosophical language. What does it mean? Repeated experience and regular feelings. What happens daily? It is what? You see that it happens tomorrow as well. I mean, it's repeated experience. Maybe the way presentation is different. Your collection is different, but your experience is the same. And he says that he is a more permanent. Which one is more permanent? When something happens in your life frequently or repeatedly, it is the permanent experience. Today something happens, and tomorrow or day after tomorrow, you have seen that it is disappeared. You cannot remind it, you cannot remember it in a certain moment. But something happens repeatedly means what? When you say that you are doing the same thing each and every day, how I can forget it? What does it mean that which thing happens frequently? It means it has the impact of what? Permanent action. A far more philosophical language. Can anyone explain it?
So without me.
Philosophical language. He mentioned that.
So, we can use philosophical language.
What is it mean? Whereas there are some words, some terms
Yes.
you must use, which may instruct what you should do, what is the meaning of it, why he has written that one. Okay?
Yes.
In etymology, Plato mentions that. What do we know? How do we know what we know? Think it. How do we know what we know? It's a philosophical language. Get it? So it means a word. So
Ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country?
do for your country. It means it's a philosophical art. Or we see that time and tide wait for none. Time and tide wait for none. It's a philosophical language because something is given there. In a poem, when you read, all the lines, all the words may not give you messages, but there are some lines, some words may give you some philosophical messages. Okay. Then humble and rustic life generally chosen. Humble and rustic life. Why? Simplicity, innocence. This life is needed to be chosen. In that condition, the essential patience of the heart find a better soil, which they can attain their maturity, are less under restraint, and speak a plainer and more emphatic language. Then what the reader will find the personifications of abstract ideas rarely occur in these volumes. I mean, so what? Personifications will find abstract ideas rarely occurs in these volumes and are utterly rejected as an ordinary device to elevate the style and rise it above prose. My means what? Wordsworth's purpose. My purpose was to imitate and as far as possible to adapt the very language of man, and astutely such personifications do not make any natural or regular part of that poetry. What does it mean then? He says that as his intention is to depict the common people's intention, common people's nature, and he wants to use the language of common people, that's why he tries to avoid using personification or such figure of speeches, ornaments. Why? Because the more ornaments means what? Means not that you will look so gorgeous one, you will look so beautiful. It doesn't indicate that. Sometimes more ornaments makes your face ugly one. You need a tip here. If you use it twice or thrice, then, or you need to use lipstick here and you use here, then what means of that? It will look your ugly one. Very
Extraordinary.
extraordinary, yeah? Okay. So, what is it?
If a boy use
Lipstick. Like Gyashuddin Tahiri uses. You have seen that. Languages of man and assuredly such personifications do not make natural or regular part of that poetry. So it means it will hamper the regular activities or regular development process of the poetic creation. Also, Wordsworth emphasizes that the language of poetry should be what? Simple, not moral, no personification, not to educate people, but to transmit feeling. Transmit feeling means what? My feelings will transmit to another. Change. It will shift from one to another, and it will change your feelings as well. Transmit from one state to another state, one soul to another soul. The verse will be read 100 times, where the prose is read once. Why? Why? Because of the selective language. So this is the basic difference. As he says that there is no difference between the language of prose and poetry, but such a way you will present everything. You will try to reflect the common people's common interest in your poetry. That's why the lines of a poem will be read more than line
Prose.
of
Line
a
of
prose. Okay? Because prose always shows or takes you such a way, seems to be that you know everything. You get every interpretation is there. You need to pay your concentration. Without any labor, you are getting everything else. There is no attraction as well.
Why? Why will you read more than prose verse to the poem?
I have already mentioned.
You should, but I think that sometimes we can understand. That's why we are reading more than prose verse.
That is a different case. You already focus on how to analyze a poem. Okay, there is the process. But when you feel interest, one example. You like to listen to music. The song which attracts you very much. You try to listen it frequently. And you know that music or the songs, these are the versions of what? Versions of poetry. But if you enjoy a film movie,
One thing I can add. So it's a rhythmic. That's why we like it.
rhythmic to some extent, he already mentioned that whenever the language of prose and poetry is the same. So rhythm should not.
But most of the poems, the line and rhythm was. That's why.
Some poems we can say nowadays some poems consist of what conveys the rhythms. Okay. Another thing is when you read a word of poem that attracts you or that gives you such meaning, and you're trying to get the meaning. What does it indicate? What does it refer to? Oh, my love is red, red rose. Or my heart is like a sinking star. Or you can say that my heart is like an apple tree. So you have seen that. Now you're thinking why it is compared, my heart is compared with an apple tree or sinking star. But if it is a prose, you will see that the explanation will give there. It means
No need to think about
without thinking, you can get every answer. That thrills you, and whenever you discover a meaning yourself, what you feel much better, and you enjoy yourself. In your school life, when you did some maths, then without any kinds of help, when you see that you can complete it, your excitement was better than your previous experience. Similarly, when you go through a poem, you see that you try to find out some meanings of the poem, and her meaning and your interpretation may not be the same, and you try to find out or argue against each other. But when you read a novel, you say that most of the cases the interpretation is the same. That's why the verses line will be read more than a prose. About poetry. Poetry is a breadth and finer spirit of all knowledge. It is the impatient expression which is in the countenance of all science. Yes, please.
I have a query about it.
Sure.
Language is same, language is the different, but poet, that means poet are using in poem rhythmic lines, but the prose line, they are not using any kind of rhythmic line. That's why people are reading most of the time the poet's line.
It is one of the reasons I have already mentioned. It is one of the reasons.
It's easy to memorize also.
Now, this is not the terms of memorization, but we said why we should read it. Why we should read it again and again? Because it attracts me, it thrills me, it changes my feelings. But the prose may not sometimes. When you read a novel or short stories, you may not try to read it for the second time, though it is very interesting. But when you read a poem, and for example,
power to change our voice.
yes, power. It has some power to change your voice.
When you're reading poem.
and the music as
Only,
well.
only point can change the our voice.
Yeah,
The prose can change, also
Prose
change.
is the-
Obviously,
our
prose can
voice.
change, but problem is where I have again and again I have mentioned that is when you read a prose, obviously there are some messages, and you can feel everything in short times. Another thing, there are two
different method reading.
different methods as well. Today I am delivering my lecture, and I am making interpretation here. And if I tell that, I just come, enter the class, and I say that yes, you can go through the slides and you can read it. Sometimes you may not understand something else. So for that reason, what you should do? You will try to reread it again. This is, you have already mentioned. It is one of the reasons. I mean, support for the difficulties. Another reason, when you see that there are some attractive lines and some attractive features, pictures as well, then you will say, oh sir, please repeat the previous one. I mean, so what? You will try to find out some other aspects of the features or the pictures. So when you read, you read a poem, you see that there is some condensed idea, and in details it is not written. What, can anyone remember the first line of the Wasteland? April is the cruelest month.
Yes.
April is the cruelest month. Just think it. The line is stuck in my mind. Why April is cruelest month?
Why?
Is there any explanation in the poem? No. Then you try to go and you try to know the contemporary history of America. Then you try to read it again and try to link up. It is another reason. But in novels, it is written. Another example, what he says, we must appreciate him as well. Arabi. Arabi is a short stories. But the language is like poetry. As a result, very first time when we go through it, we may not understand, we may not find out all the meanings, all the interpretation. That's why we're trying to go it because of the language. I mean, support. He mentioned that prose's language are presented in a usual way, but poetry's language are presented unusual way. Though facts are the same, themes or the issues are the familiar, but presentation is the different. I think now you are clear, isn't it? Next one, he defines a good poem as a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, emotions that recollected in tranquility. Tranquility means what? In an isolated area, calm and quiet. Okay, there should be calm and quiet. And spontaneous overflow. What does it mean? That when it is calm, everything doesn't come spontaneously. When you recollected it in tranquility, I mean, so what? You need deep observation, close feelings, close analysis or deep analysis. Then it will come. You cannot speak every day. For example, we ask you to make a presentation. Without notice, none of you agree. Why? Because you have no preparation. When we notice you that tomorrow you have a presentation at home, you are trying to observe which points I should tell in my presentation and what pictures I should show there and how I should express myself. It means what? Isolatedly, you are trying to decorate or prepare yourself and you present it. And in the next class, whenever you have done it earlier, you can present yourself spontaneously. So, is it clear? Next, spontaneous overflow, recollected in tranquility. The contrast in the definition for him, poetry is the talk of man to man. It should be in simple language. Then subject matter is nature. Subject matter is nature. It is contrary to the definition itself as well. Later on we will explain it how it is contradictory with the definition. Then the naked and native dignity of man, I mean, so what? Truly, human natures must be depicted in poetry.
Yes.
Function of poetry is a breadth and finer spirit of knowledge. Function is a breadth and finer spirit of knowledge. That what? Impatient expression that is in the countenance of all signs. And in previous to Lyrical Ballad, Wordsworth claims that poetry is better than even science, and it is the best school of knowledge. Poetry should present some morality. Poetry, already we have mentioned that there are some contradictions. Later on we will prove it. Okay? And according to Wordsworth, poet is a man or talking man, already we have done. So you can read it, and talking man, ordinary and not liar at all. He should speak the truth as well. Presenting ordinary things, unique, individual and original. It should not be artificial as well. Then Wordsworth says that the subject of poetry should be common life or ordinary things, regular feelings, anything in real world, beauty of the nature, situations through emotions rather than emotions through situations. So that's all. Do you have any questions?
Lyrical ballad.
What's lyrical ballads? Right? Yes. আমি এটা ক্লোজ করি, অসুবিধা নেই।